Welcome, everyone. Today we start talking about Chapter 4. This is week 5 of your senior project, and we'll be looking at probably one of the most fun chapters to write, and that is kind of it's your chance to finally say, here's what the outcome was for this hypothesis or these hypotheses. So here's what you talk about in Chapter 4. The purpose of Chapter 4 is to present and analyze data to test your hypotheses. It still needs to be completely objective. There should be no assumptions or interpretations, but establish in this chapter if the hypotheses were proved, disproved, or partially proved. Okay, and again, there's no shame if you disproved it. We learn something no matter what when we test an hypothesis, even if it was disproved. So how do you organize this chapter, Chapter 4? You start, of course, with an introduction, which you use in every chapter. Different introduction, of course, but you're going to introduce Chapter 4 and tell the reader what they're about to read. So you briefly remind the reader of the purpose of your research question. Then you start going hypothesis by hypothesis. If you've got more than one hypothesis, you will need to start with the first and go into complete detail with that one, finish up writing that, and then start on the second one. So you're going hypothesis by hypothesis. Okay? And what you're doing is describing the dependent variable, that's the outcome, and how you came to that conclusion. Explain in detail. Make sure you refer back to the studies in Chapter 3, because those are what you're using to test those hypotheses. So explain it in detail. And if you're presenting a lot of numbers, think about creating a table. Charts are okay too if they're meaningful. Just make sure that you refer to it in your writing of Chapter 4. Don't just throw the chart out there or the table. Make sure you situate it on the page where you're talking about the data that's in that. You can refer back to it, but you need to still write out what are the results and why you included that information. For example, start with hypothesis 1. What do? You restate the hypothesis. You tell the reader if the hypothesis was proved, disproved, or partially proved. And then you say why or how. Present summaries of your data referring back to results of Chapter 3, one study at a time. Then analyze the results. What is the basis for your reasoning? How did you come to this conclusion? Okay. Then if you have a second hypothesis, do the same thing with hypothesis number 2. As always, of course, you want to follow those APA style levels of heading. Okay, so the APA manual, you want to make sure that Chapter 4 is centered, boldface when you have that word, Chapter 4. Results or testing of the hypothesis, however you want to put that. You can, this is kind of the really what you were getting at with this study. What is the answer? So, go ahead and make sure that when you write Chapter 3 results, Chapter 3 : results or something like that, that it's centered, boldface, uppercase, and lowercase headings, just like it's written there. Okay? So the big words have a capital letter at the beginning of them, and then it's lowercase after that. Okay? No period. When you talk about each hypothesis, make sure that hypothesis 1 is left aligned, bold-faced, upper and lowercase heading, just like number 2 level of heading right there, okay? And then if you break up the analysis in the proof of of hypothesis 1, and then hypothesis 2, etc. You can have subheads at level 3. Just make sure they're indented with bold-faced and lowercase, except of course for the first letter, just like you would any sentence with a period. Okay, and so on. Okay, that's really all there is to it. That is chapter 4. Chapter 4 is simply the final outcome. It is telling the reader, these were the results of my hypotheses. So if you have any questions, as always, please go to the virtual office and post them or email me. I look forward to receiving those questions. Have a wonderful week, and thank you so very much for watching this video.